Hello.
Hey, Nick, it's Neil.
Hi, Neil.
Yeah, how you doing? You ready to rock and roll?
Yeah. I got. Should I keep the phone on? I have an iPhone. Should I keep it on speakerphone?
What's it on right now?
Speakerphone.
Put it on regular phone. Let me see the difference.
How's that?
Wait, talk a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's better on speakerphone.
What do you want now?
Speakerphone.
Yeah, that's good.
Yes. Yeah. Normally.
Oh, when you first called, it was on regular.
Right.
Oh, I thought it was
Exactly.
the other way around. Yeah, what you're doing now is perfect.
Yep.
All
Yep.
right, so are you ready to record a podcast?
I am. It's been a long day, but it's been a long couple of weeks, and I'm ready.
I hear you. It's Friday night. I don't have a brain cell left, and I have the house to myself for like the next 24 hours.
You're a bachelor for 24.
Well, I'm going to try to relax unless I get texted
Right.
a list,
Right.
The list.
Right. I'm sure. Yep.
But no, it's all good. It's all good.
Right.
So
Right.
no, it's Friday night. We're chilling. So, Nick, we're trying something new. This is going to be our coffee talk series. So what that is, everything we're doing now, even the pre-interview, I'm going to record and publish. So people,
Excellent.
this way everybody can kind of get a behind the scenes thing, see how they
Yep.
like it. Now, for you
Okay.
youngins, there was an old series on Saturday Night Live called Coffee Talk, right? It was with Mike Myers from the early 90s. It was a fictitious talk show. He would dress up like a middle-aged woman. He had like a Barbra Streisand thing, like butter. So obviously that's not what we're doing here. I just like the name. So for everybody listening, this is basically the unedited director's cut, the bonus DVD version, whatever you want to call it. So I thought it would be cool to do these types of episodes occasionally, especially if it's someone I'm friends with. So let me know how you like it. Hopefully you'll message me saying, this is cool. You should do this again. Or some people will say, you know what, you need to go back to editing like you normally do. But we'll see. I have a feeling people will find this interesting. So before we review the topic, what tournament are you playing at this weekend? You're in DC, right?
Yeah, currently I am at the Hilton in Rockville, which is just northwest of the heart of DC by about 15 miles, and it's the 68th Maryland Open. It's my first time playing in this tournament. I have played in DC before, which was the Eastern Open, which was an 8-round winter tournament held in between Christmas Day and New Year's Day, that holiday week, and I've done that twice, and I never came here, so I figured try something new, and it's a 5-round tournament. First round tonight, multiple sections, or there's a 2-day schedule where the first 2 games are game 45, and then it merges with round 3 tomorrow evening. And originally I was planning to do the 5-day. I've been doing a lot of chess lately. I played at the Long Island Chess Club last night, and didn't have much sleep. Had to do some errands for my dad today, run him down for a medical exam, and he's okay. And but then I got like 4 hours of sleep. Then I had to pick up my roommate who's playing the tournament here as well, who's also a Long Island Chess Club participant that Zillion Chen. And,
okay.
Yep, so he's here.
That's like I don't know why, like you and Xylan together. That's like I wouldn't have had you guys pegged as going to a tournament together. I don't know why.
Right, so everything with chess is always surprises. And so I only had 4 hours of sleep, and unfortunately today with the weather system, it was raining all day and there was a lot of traffic, and so I'm just wiped out. And I went to the tournament director after we checked in here about 4 o'clock. At 5 o'clock, I went downstairs and they're setting up the tournament rooms. And I told them I want to switch sections. Originally, I was going to do the Open 5-day, and I switched to the under 2300 2-day. And my reasoning for that was based on a little actually recent success that I had last weekend at a tournament at the Marshall Chess Club. And I kind of decided, if I'm going to play, and let me play in my section and see how it goes. So I'm excellent. I feel good for the weekend after I get a good night rest, hopefully tonight. And I'm happy to be back on the podcast. I'm a returnee, right? So
I was going to say you're now a regular contributor.
Yeah, no,
right?
it's
Well, you and Brian Karen are like, you guys are go-tos. Maybe even Tim again. but you and Brian are the only two that have been on more than once, and you'll be on
Okay.
again. You'll be on
Yeah,
again.
hopefully, and so with the tournament last night, I know that now you've had how many participants do you have for the current tournament, which is the Kreitner Memorial?
We have, I don't have it in front of me. I'm going to say like 45, maybe
And
46.
and I believe that's your all-time high for a single
Yeah,
tournament.
actually, I think it might be more. It might be closer to 50, but yes. Yeah, and for a local club,
Unbelievable.
those are
Yeah.
some serious. I was joking last
Yeah.
night because
Mhm.
we have it in a big church hall and there's a little stage. I was joking last night. We're going to have the first two boards on the stage. Get like a
If you
screen. We'll like post the games.
pretty soon, yeah, if you run out of room, you're gonna have to utilize
Yeah,
the stage space
right.
for a couple of boards, right? It's
Yeah, we'll get
amazing.
like Naroditsky and Fabiano to do commentary.
You have to stream up on chess.com. And
Yeah.
they're probably all local. I bet there's local events that do utilize the technology, like with chess.com. That I'm not sure of all the. I'm not a big time online person with chess and all like different things. But I bet the young kids have things that they have rather than going in the old days. Used to have somebody would have maybe a tournament at their house like on a Friday night, like a blitz tournament, which I have participated in when I was in high school and in college. Mostly when I was in high school, there was a local expert named Peter Kademoff. I don't know if you remember him.
No.
He played at Nassau Chess Club
Okay.
in the 90s. That's how I met him. And he lived in Belterre, which is a very nice section of Fort Jeff. And he would have, on a Friday night, he would have anywhere from 15 to like 22 people over. And the game, it would be game 5 blitz. And you play one game against your opponent with white and one is black. And sometimes, it would be, if it was like 16 people, it would be like a double round robin. And you would so it was like 30 blitz games, for the evening. It would start 7 o'clock at night, and it wouldn't end till 1:30 in the morning. And at the time, there was some experts, and I think maybe two masters there. And when I was younger in high school, it really helped me, just to get better at speed chess and try to improve, because I always, it was fun, but yet it was competitive, and that was definitely something in the early days that helped me in my chess development. And but I bet now what I'm saying, going on that tangent, is that I bet there's similar things that are happening now, but it's all online. You don't need to do all the extra work of commuting to somebody's house, even if it's on Long Island, for example. And I bet the kids are doing this on Friday night. Oh, well, like they're all front. If there's a chess club like in school, they go home. They're on the internet, and maybe they set up a tournament where they play at night. So, I think that the kids are utilizing this technology probably a lot more than the adults are, and that's probably part of the reason why we see so many kids now developing at a really fast pace, maybe faster than a couple of decades ago. And there's definitely a reason for that. It's not that the kids are any smarter human beings. We still have the same anatomy and physiology, but I think that it's just the technology that they're using to their advantage over most of the adults. And but again, that just shows with the turnout in chess how chess has become really, it's becoming really, really popular. It's good to see. I'm seeing big turnouts. Okay, your club and the Marshall Chess Club where I'm going. Sometimes I'm seeing 60 to 70 entries. On a weekend tournament. And that's consistent, all their tournaments are getting big turnouts, and this is just everywhere now. So, chess is probably the biggest boom that I could recall in my days of playing, and maybe somebody from the Fisher era, not me from '72, could relate it. But I'm going over my games sometimes on the computer at a library if I have time in the quiet room. Somebody else comes in, they see me entering my game on ChessBase. And they're like, "Oh, are you a chess player?" I'm like, "Yeah," and I explain what I'm doing. And they go, "Oh, I'm rated 1,000 on chess.com." And that just shows, years ago, you would never have anybody come up to you and say, "Oh, you're a chess player." Very rare, unless they saw you playing the game against somebody in public. Maybe then they would come up to you.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes in Starbucks, I'll have my notebook computer, if I'm before I come to your club or maybe Nassau Club or something local. And I'm people are waiting for their Starbucks as they normally do online, and I'm looking at and they're on their phone, and I'm looking at their phone, and they're playing on chess.com. people I don't even, they're not nobody I recognize from the local chess scene. It's just random people that are playing, when they get a moment on chess.com. And so when you're seeing that, you really know that chess is really becoming popular now.
And I see it with my kids at school too, because I saw a post, it might have been on Twitter or Reddit or something, about how all these junior high school or middle school kids are now playing chess. I can tell you it's true. I teach 6th and 7th grade, and on their Chromebooks, like if they're at lunch or whatever on a break, they're all on chess.com playing. So I can attest that that's true, because I work with those kids every day.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So, Nick, let's run down the topics for today. So, I want to start with all these 1,000 rated players and how dangerous they are. We'll get into that. And then you said you wanted to talk about playing chess after like a long layoff, right?
Right.
Okay.
Sure.
And then you have some thoughts about going over games, what to study, how much you should play, finding inspiration. We'll get into that. You have some thoughts on cheating in over the board events. I'm curious what you have to say about that. And then as far as rating, like rating deflation, the boom, and how to handle the rating worries, because I think people definitely want to hear about that. And then, you have some thoughts about lessons, right? Like, should one take lessons? You're a little bit on the fence yourself. So is that cool for the topics? We'll kind of run that down. I'll let you run with it. Okay. So see, for those of you listening, you're getting the pre-interview as well. Okay. Sound check's good. Levels are good. You sound nice and clear.
Excellent.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we're doing it by phone, because you said the internet where you are is like horrible.
Yeah, it's kind of choppy, and I inquired about it, and they said that it was a nice setup on the first podcast we did, and unfortunately, that's the first thing I did when I got here. I opened up my computer to make sure the internet was working, and it connected right away, but it wouldn't connect to anything on the web browser, and I knew that the connection was weak, and then Xylan on his phone did the same thing and said connected, but yet it was a very weak signal, and they're saying maybe it's the weather, or sometimes it happens, or maybe the router has to get readjusted, or occasionally I have had that. Yeah, I've had that notice at hotels. Most of the time they're fairly good. Every now and then, something, it's not stable at a hotel.
Yeah, or they're too cheap to get enough bandwidth. I see. I'm a Wi-Fi snob. Like, if you're gonna have Wi-Fi, just get high-speed Wi-Fi. Like, I expect it to be like like I have it in my house. It's like, it's the best, and it's not that expensive now. But no, nothing worse than bad Wi-Fi. So yes, we are doing this by phone for those of you listening. So I think it should come out okay though. But I had to do that with Bonin as well, because there was an issue. So I have the setup for it. So if someone needs to do it by phone because the internet's not good or they don't have a computer, we can work around that. So, all right. So I'm going to introduce you, Nick, and then we'll get into the topics. All right. So yeah, feel free to run with it. And I'm trying to think. I think that's it. Everything looks good. Okay. So I am with National Master Nick Panico, fellow Long Island chess player, occasional storm chaser, master of the bishop and knight mate, and other theoretical endgames you probably won't need. But strong player. And Nick, you know what I'm going to do for you? I'm going to play. It's going to be a little throwback, a little old school. It was only a year ago. I'm making it sound like it was 20 years ago. I'm going to play the original theme song to this podcast.
I remember that.
Yeah, remember that? Nice. Everybody liked that too.
Your podcast, a year ago, so when I was doing some road trips and listening, I remember that.
Yeah. Yep. So now I have the cool voiceover guy do it instead. Much better than my Long Island twang. But yeah, that was the original theme song. So I had it here on the thing, so I figured why not. All right. So why don't we start with these quote unquote 1,000 rated players who are like dominating. They're just playing so well. And Nick, when you talk about that, and also where you've experienced this at the other clubs, I want to hear about your game the other night, because in the first round, you played that guy that was like 1,000. I don't know how old he was. I couldn't tell you. Maybe he was in his 20s, but
right.
he was
Maybe
rated
late
1,000.
20s.
And I'm not saying this to like rib you or anything, but you're a master, and like this guy was like giving you a serious fight. I mean, it looked like you were almost up against the ropes there. So like, tell me about that game.
Absolutely. And it was a he played very well. 1,050 rating, and he's had a few tournaments within maybe the last year or so at the Kings of Queens Club, which is a club run by Terrell Harriet, a national master, former person that you had on the podcast.
Yep.
I know him personally. Great guy.
Oh yeah.
He's done a lot of tests during the pandemic. He runs the Steinway Club. It's the Game 25. He likes all-time controls, but he feels like he does pretty well with the quick stuff. And I know that my opponent, when I looked him up on MSA, he had maybe 8 events at the Kings of Queens Club, which is a fast event, and he got an established rating of 1050. Now this is someone obviously that I played in round 1 at the Long Island Chess Club. And I was white, and definitely I could feel he was definitely I don't take anyone since I started my comeback with chess about 3, which was actually, I'll tell you right now, it was April 4th, was Monday, was my first game rated, and then some other tournaments after that. Which now I think I have 45 rated games I've played within the last 3 weeks. So I haven't taken anyone, like maybe in the past I would take people lightly based on their rating. I haven't done that since my comeback, because I know the way that it is now with the unrateds, that due to rating deflation, that everyone you got to take seriously, because they're definitely most likely stronger than their rating compared to the past based on ability level. And doesn't matter if they're unrated, if they're 1,000, 1,300, it's the same approach every game. And he played very well. He thought in the opening. He played a gambit, which I accepted, and kind of knew some of the theory on, and then he made some deviations, but they have the developing moves. They're gaining, it has an initiative, and White's trying to develop and kind of hold back Black's attack on the king side, and he made some inaccuracies, which during the game I was aware too. I could sense it in the position that some of those moves were mistakes, and I'm looking how to capitalize on it. And at first I did gain the advantage, played the right moves based on his errors, and then I made some slips. And then, he was right back in the game, attacking, finding a lot of the right moves. Based on computer analysis, early on he was lost, and then later on down the game, I think at one point the computer I was lost, and then it went back to a position where I had like a positional advantage because I was up a pawn, but neither side you could say was technically winning based on computer evaluations. And then I saw where I was in some time pressure, and I was just trying to develop, and I was up 2 pawns, or I was trying to give a pawn back, but kind of fizzle out the position, exchange some pieces, be a pawn up, or maybe just be even material, but have a much better structure going into an endgame, which ultimately happened. And then he got into some fine pressure, and it was a queen and rook endgame with some pawns, and he was in check. He touched his queen to come down towards my king position. So then I stopped the clock, and then he had to make a legal move with the queen, and the only one would be to block the check that he was in, and he would lose the queen. So he resigned, and very interesting game. And I believe he won last night in round 2. Looked like he played a pretty good game, just from me looking. And this is someone that before the pandemic definitely would not be 1,000. My estimate would be, maybe based on my experience, playing a lot of club players over the years, decades actually. I would say that, this is someone that I probably, if I never would have known based on MSA, I would have said, okay, he's probably, maybe in the 17 to 1800-ish range, maybe, based on his play. But that's not the case. He's 10, rating is 1050. And that's just, the way the system is now based on the pandemic and the rating deflation that has occurred to this. So, it's interesting because, when we talk about the low rated players, it actually ties in with one of our topics, which is rating deflation. And, last night I had a, game where I was black against 1300. And, I played very good. I'm starting to, shake off the rust. I'm playing some complete games, and, he didn't play poorly. He made some positional advantages. He made some positional mistakes, which I was able to take advantage of, get a better position. Then he missed a tactic where I won a pawn, but it's still not necessarily easy to convert. Black has to, just basically keep improving your position, grind them down, get your pieces to better squares. Don't give your opponent any counterplay. Which I did very, very well. I was very happy with the game. Yes, okay, it was someone rated 1300, but the way I played it, I really felt like I played pretty well to one of my better games in a long time. And but again, this is someone I would not have before pandemic would have said is 1300. I'm also experiencing this at the Marshall Chess Club, where some of the younger participants, the kids, 16, 1700s are playing. They're beating 1900s regularly, starting to, and so I'm seeing this in all places that I attend. I think that it's due to the ratings are deflated. Why are they deflated? It's because of the pandemic that you had in after 2019 concluded. Towards the end of 2020, when all the chess got shut down, right? For a couple of months there, and March 13th, was the lockdown day, you could say. And then, many people continued throughout that summer of 2020, and a lot of people did not work. They didn't leave home. They had more time. What's something that they could do? What did they look forward to? I mean, it was a tough time emotionally, financially, for families, for, single people, employment, structures. And so what happened is I think that a lot of people turned to chess. Maybe they were interested in chess. And then maybe with the coincided with the release of the Queen's Gambit on Netflix. A lot of people went to streaming during the pandemic. I know I did. I remember for me, one of the things I really looked forward to every Sunday night was The Last Dance with the Michael Jordan, the Bulls documentary, and it was two 10-part series. They released 2 episodes each Sunday night, and I really enjoyed that. So I think for other people, maybe it was the Queen's Gambit, because at that time people were telling me to watch it, and I'm like, no, I'll wait. I've seen a lot of chess things over the years, and I kind of know what it's going to be like. And sure enough, a couple months later, I saw it, and I was happy with it. And I think that that led to a lot of people just, maybe going on LI Chess, maybe going on chess.com, Chess24, multiple platforms now. A lot is offered on these platforms compared to some of the very early vendors of social media, of internet chess. The information there's literally, if you're a beginner, you can learn very quickly because there's very strong players that are explaining certain things about the game. You have maybe some players who are not at the grandmaster or IM level, but they're still very good. They're entertaining by being content creators on YouTube, and they're very appealing. And if you're a beginner, it's a fun way to learn, listening to someone that's entertaining. And I think, all of these things have led to over that year, the 2020 into 21, a lot of people to learn chess, play games against other people online in the world, but never playing actually USEF or, rated games. And I think that continued into 2022. And so over the 2 years or so, a lot of people, their strength has really gone up. Their knowledge has gone up. But their ratings have not gone up because, tournament chess, local chess was mostly closed down. When things did reopen, there was still a lot of mandates, vaccine mandates, mask mandates. A lot of people were still hesitant, possibly, even when these clubs were reopening. and they didn't go out and play. And so maybe now it's close to almost 3 years, and now, their knowledge, now they're starting to come out and play, and we're seeing that, they never had 3 years of playing tournament chess, because somebody can go from 1,000 or unrated or 1,100. If they play a lot, they study a lot, they enjoy it, they're serious about trying to improve, they can go from 11, 1,200 to 16, 1,700 in 3 years. They maybe 18, 1,900. I've seen it personally, and it happened for me when I was playing. I didn't have this technology, and when I was in high school, I think my first in 92, 93, my first rating was 1,400. I knew the rules of chess. I knew how to write the game down. My dad went over the basic checkmates with me, my system. I knew about the importance of rooks on the 7th rank. I knew about pins, some basic stuff. So sure enough, I had a published rating of 1,400. And then playing at the Marshall, playing some strong players, weekend Swiss tournaments. By the time I was 92, I was 15 years old. And then when I started college in 96, 4 years later after high school, I was 1,800. So, and that's, 3 years of a 400 rating point, and then shortly 6 months after that, I went to 2,100. So in four and a half years, I went from 1,400 to over 2,100. So the 700-point jump. So 3 years, people can definitely gain a lot of knowledge, and I think we're seeing that now, and that's why the ratings are deflated. Also, Jared Tavares, who's also a club member, and I believe he was on also a past person that you had on the podcast. He thinks the rating deflation is also due to the fact that a lot of the population maybe that's more hesitant to come back would be your people at a more risk to having health problems, maybe more the elderly population, and he thinks that some of the older people maybe who have like high rating floors, maybe 2,200 or 2,000. Maybe a lot of them stop playing because when you're at your floor, if you're not performing at a certain level, your rating won't go down. But if people are beating you, they're still gaining those rating points. And at first, I thought that when he said this, I thought that he was joking, but it actually makes sense now that I think about the rating deflation, and I think that that could be also tied in. You don't. I think he was calling them donators. In terms of the.
I like that. Donators. The donators,
right.
like someone who has a floor of 2,000, but is probably playing at 1,700 strength.
Right.
So those are the people everybody wants to play. Yeah. I mean, which makes me. Yeah. Just to jump in, I always wondered about rating floors because I get the whole sandbagging thing, but I also have a lot of issues with rating floors because with a rating floor, let's say you were 2,200 and you drop to your floor, which is 200 points lower. So you're 2,000. You could lose every game for the, correct me if I'm wrong, with a floor, you can lose every game for the rest of your life. And your rating doesn't go below 2,000. I have a problem with that. That's not right. That's not right.
Right, there are people that have petitioned the USCF. The late life master Larry Tomarkin was one of them. He was a life master. He played over 300 games USCF, with a rating of over 2,200. He had the life master title that was given to him, which means that your rating could never go down below 2,200. And then for a while, he was always at his floor. And then he felt like he just wasn't he was getting older. He felt he wasn't at the same, performing at the same level. I mean, I hate to say knowledge because I don't think knowledge you lose that easily. It's just making decisions. Tournament play is more about, sometimes it's more about, stamina and physical conditioning and,
sure.
This decision making, and so he petitioned the USCF, and his rating they did lower it to 2,000. And I believe Ilian Kreitner did the same thing. And so these are people that weren't playing chess to go play big CCA events for money. It was just I guess they felt more that it was like ethically the right thing to do because if they're not performing really at that strength anymore, and this was not just a couple of tournaments, this was over over the course of, a couple of years, time. And I think that, and at the same time, I think that, the federations, should look at that, case by case, look at it closely. And because ultimately, if someone's competing, in the tournament, it's nice to have a chance to feel like you're contending and have a chance of, winning something. Of course, these, the people that are doing this, they're not playing chess professionally. They're not playing for money. They're not relying on it. But it's still that incentive where, you're playing for something. It's competitive. And so I think that, the rating floors sometimes, they have to be, looked at. Now, for example, in my case, okay, I've been over 2,200. I have the national master title, and with my comeback, and I've had a few shaking off the rust. I have some games that I've lost to some lower rated players, and once there's a Ronkonkoma tournament, once that gets updated after tomorrow's round 4, I'm not in it anymore. But my live rating should be about 2,070 something. Because I lost 90 points since returning. And I've had some good results, but I'm just not gaining the points back from the good results that outweighed, a couple of disaster games, maybe 5 games where, I lost 19 or 20 points each game. And this is a question for the rating system where and Brian Karen could speak a lot more than I can, if you have somebody who's 1,600 and I lose to a 1,600, let's say I lose to a 1,600 where that 1,600 rating is based on 500 tournament games or 800 tournament games. Now, let's say I lose to another 1,600. Maybe it's a kid with not as many rated games. Maybe it's only 100 rated games. I think that, I shouldn't lose as many rating points to the person who only played 100 rating games, because it's based on statistics, right? Anything could happen in one game, but the rating system is ultimately based on statistics. And, with 100 games, that's just not a big enough sample size necessarily as someone with 800 rated games. So there's that aspect, and that could be also why there's rating deflation. So ultimately, I did lose like 90 points in returning, and that was part of my reason why I wanted to start playing again. I thought about a lot of things that over the years that I enjoyed with chess, and a lot of the relationships and the tournament atmosphere, and a lot of the memories. And some of those were sparked from the podcast that we had, and some of them are from me listening to other podcasts. So, and I knew that the challenge I knew I was going to be rusty. I knew that how the rating system is now, the rating deflation. I knew that, coming back at first, I'm going to lose a lot, rating points. And I'm not playing because of rating. I'm playing because I enjoy the game. I'm playing because I still think I can improve. I could improve my knowledge of the game. That's ultimately why I play, why I enjoy chess so much, because every game is new and anything can happen in any game. And, if you put the work in, you're probably going to see the change in the effort. So I'm confident I'll get the rating points back. But let's say I didn't. Let's say I had a couple more bad games and my rating went to my floor of 2,000. So now it might be the issue where people say, oh wait, Nick Panico didn't play in 8 years. All of a sudden he came back and, he's at 2,000. He's at his floor. What CCA event is he going to? Which is not the case. I never played in a lot of CCA events, even like over our last podcast that we talked about, the sandbagging accusations. But let's say, if I did hit 2,000, am I going to go run to the USCF and say, oh, you know what? I need my rating floor to be lowered. Of course not, right? That's a totally different situation than, someone who's playing regularly, for year after year after year. And, they're not playing big CCA events or big money events. They're just playing at their local level, but they're not getting the results. And those are the people that, the federation should look at, and I think, take into consideration too, which they do on occasion. As I mentioned, some people that were able to successfully have the rating floor removed, that they should do that. But, with the rating deflation, I know it has created some problems for FIDE titles. It used to be for some of the in terms of getting like the IMGM title, some of the harder challenges was to not the rating to get the rating, but was to get the norms, because you had to play it. You had to get 3 norms in within a certain amount of time, which is performance rating, a certain number of points in select tournaments. Those tournaments had to be comprised of a couple of different players. You had to play different players from different federations. And sometimes that was the challenging part of it. Now, from what I'm hearing, is that that's not necessarily so much of the difficulty, which it still is, but the bigger difficulty is actually getting the FIDE rating up to a certain point. So for International Master, you have to have the norms plus a 2400 FIDE rating. GM, you need to have the norms plus the 2500 FIDE rating. And now with the a number of, again, with the rating deflation due to the pandemic, the 3 years of inactivity, and also in conjunction with a lot of tournaments that are being FIDE rated at the lower levels, you have players now that are getting FIDE ratings like 1,000 or 1,200, which is not the case. And so this is what's making it very difficult. And I believe I listened to a podcast where International Master Dean Ippolito was mentioning now for himself, it was to get to, he thinks that the hardest aspect is now is getting this FIDE rating, because they're all down and the FIDE ratings are, the kids are taking a lot of the FIDE rating points, and then the kids go to college, and you never get a chance to get those points back when their rating is at the level at which it reflects their strength. So that's the other thing, is you have a lot of players that gobble up points, when they're young, and then they stop playing because either they play because they're in scholastics and they want to play for maybe a scholarship opportunity, or they just move on. They're too busy with college, work, jobs, relationships, and people stop playing chess. They lose interest, which is perfectly normal. But those rating points don't get put back into the system. So that's also why another part of the rating deflation, and it happens, I think, locally too with the USCF. So you have all of these factors, right? More people playing chess than ever, people stopping at certain times, the pandemic, where you have a lot of players stronger than what they really are. And when you take all of them and you combine them within the 3-year period that we're seeing, we're just seeing that the ratings have, really deflated. If you're going to be playing, statistically, you're playing like a wide range of players with different ratings. Of course, if you're playing, select tournaments, if you're trying to avoid rating losses, there's things that you can do. I mean, now there's players that don't play chess right now because they're afraid of losing rating points, and that's the truth. And that's a shame, because if you really enjoy something, like the rating is really just a statistic based on a long-term average, right? It's like a batting average, right? And like in baseball, you can have Tony Gwynn, right, who his career, I think, batting average was 338 or 336, I believe, and or even during Ted Williams' season when he hit 406. I mean, is it possible he had a game where he went 0 for 3 or 0 for 4? Of course, but over the long term, these players with these averages, right, statistics, it gets displayed. So same thing with the rating system, right? So the rating system is not based on your ability or your knowledge of chess. It's based on your decision making and, so many other factors, right? Are you taking care of yourself? Are you playing when you're tired? Are you playing when you have things on your mind? Maybe you have a fight with your wife or your girlfriend. Maybe your kids are having problems in school, or you're worried about a family member. So all of these, so many of these factors, like mentally, right? Because chess is, a mental game as well, will affect your ability, and which affects your rating. So, people should not really worry about the rating. If if you're looking to play chess to get better, to improve, you enjoy it, keep learning, keep going over your games, keep getting the knowledge, and the rating points will come. Eventually this rating deflation is going to go away. It's kind of like a tsunami wave right now, where it's just, you see it coming, and it's broken, and the water is rushing onshore, going into all the towns, causing the destruction. But eventually that wave is going to stop, and the water will recede. And that's what's going to happen with the rating system, where, it's going to take some time for sure. It may take 2-3 years, probably, the same time it took for this to occur. But I do think in like 3 years or so, I think the deflation will turn around, and then things will go back to a little more stable with the rating system. Maybe the Federation has to come up with a certain formula, again, based on what I mentioned earlier about, okay, maybe the rating should be calculated differently based on the number of games that somebody has. Again, Brian Karen can talk way more about the rating system than I can, but I think that's a lot to discuss. for plays at the 1050, 1,000. Like I'm sorry, as the 1,000 rated or the unrated level, as we talked about. So just take every game seriously. Take every game that like you're playing yourself or somebody 200, 300, 400 points stronger than you. Right? Take that same approach every game. Don't worry about the rating. Play your best. Make the best decisions. Don't look so much into this. Sometimes, I guess, the psychological factors do come into a play, and I think that also could be a problem. Sometimes in a thing of the past, we learned, a low-rated opponent, maybe they're going to fall for a trick. So maybe I should make a move that I normally wouldn't make, but, it's not a losing move. I'm not playing hope chess, or I'm not playing for a pure swindle, but I'm going to go into a position that I don't know as well, but it's a little maybe going to go into an open position where maybe there's more tactical themes. So I wouldn't necessarily go that route with my mental thinking. I would think, let me just play like I would normally against anybody else. Let me play the board. Let me play the position. So maybe some of those psychological factors that we have to go away from that we relied on in the past, maybe those aren't going to work as well, for us right now. So maybe it's like we could be a little more conservative, like kind of like an insurance policy, and try to play the game based on our strengths, and eventually cash in when our opponents do make again a tactical mistake. It may happen. If not, maybe they're going to make a positional mistake, and then you just take it from there. So I think that there's a lot that could be done with that for the playing low rated players, and I wouldn't worry about the ratings.
Let's talk about playing after a long layoff. I mean, is there more you want to add to that? Because with your experience, because I know that was like a big thing with you.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I took a lot of years off before again deciding to return in April, and and I noticed my first couple of tournaments, where out of those 90 points that I currently lost, a lot of those points were lost early on. And what I was noticing, now that I can reflect because it's only been 3.5 weeks, obviously I knew I was going to have some level of rust. I didn't know how much. I didn't know what I would be doing differently from 7-8 years ago when I was more active. And one of them I noticed right away was that I was not thinking on my opponent's time. Maybe a little bit, but not to my level or not to what I should be. So if that's something that you're seeing in your games, really not thinking on your opponent's time, that's a sign that something, is wrong. Because you want to use all the information, all the time that you have for your decisions at the board. And another thing I noticed that why I was rusty is I'm checking a line, I'm checking a variation, but then I'm coming back to it. I'm relooking at it again. And it's almost like I'm trying to find the best move, or maybe some people they think, oh, what would the computer play, right? Or they believe something is wrong. They don't trust it. They look back again. They look at something else, and then they come back to the first line. And I noticed I was doing that a lot. I was doing that in a lot of my games, that I was losing to some of the lower rated players. So again, I was falling. I was not thinking of my opponent's time. I'm relooking at variations where I shouldn't be. I should come up with a decision a little bit faster. Have more trust in the position or my candidate moves, which then turns into a thing where, yes, we know that players these days, even with low ratings, they're stronger than their rating. But if I'm one of my games at the Marshall Chess Club, I was white, and he made a move where I've seen before, an idea that I've seen before, not necessarily in that position, but I'm just thinking like, this is a really great idea for him. What am I going to do about this? How am I going to stop this? Not looking at the fact that, well, is there a mistake to the move? Is there some type of negative factor to the move that he made? And I'm not looking at that. I'm not looking for the weaknesses in his position. I'm just looking more at what he's going to do to me if I make a mistake. And kind of like, looking at a tactic for him that like I have to kind of allow if I don't find the best plan. and that's not a good sign. So that, in a way, that's kind of respecting. I think that's it's sometimes that goes into the line where you're respecting your opponent too much. Especially if you're a stronger player overall. Again, anything, we know the ratings, or in a game, one game, anything can happen. But overall, the ratings do have something. There's some merit to them. And if you're thinking like that, where you're fearful of your opponent's move and not looking at some of the I think Maurice called this drawback chess. Like every move, right? When you make a pawn move, something is weakened in your position because of that move, right? There's a drawback to every move. Now, of course, the goal is to get the positives over the negatives, and that's why we have, we evaluate positions, the computers do, and they come up with whatever, numerical value that they give. But when you're thinking of why your opponent is making this move, and is there a weakness to it, but you're not looking at a possibility that there's a weakness in their position, then you become fearful of their move, and that's kind of disrespecting your opponent too much. And I did that in one of my games at the Marshall. It was game 45, and I was white, and I just moved. I was lost on like move 20, and I'm just like, oh, this game is over. And okay, this was after maybe some other tournaments where I wasn't doing so well. I'm like, I resigned, and and that was it. And so if you're doing a lot of these things that I'm saying, not thinking on your opponent's time, you're looking at lines, and you're not making a decision, then you're looking at the line again. You're not looking at the drawbacks of your opponent moves. What's going to happen ultimately is you're going to fall behind on the clock in your game. You're just going to start falling behind on time, and that's what was happening to me in a lot of my games. And it's a lot of doubt, right? You kind of, you're being, then what happens is that you start, if you're not seeing some of the drawbacks or the key squares of, you're assessing, misvaluing, or giving too much importance to a square that your opponent's controlling, then you start to say, wait a second, what happens if this position becomes a little open? I don't know what's happening. I don't know how to evaluate this right here. How am I going to evaluate if the position becomes open? And I was doing a lot of that as well. And I think that for me, I'm trying to think about why. Okay, yes, I haven't played over the board in many years, but I think part of it was because all I was doing over those years was on chess.com playing bullet chess. And you're not thinking in bullet chess, you're just seeing a position that you've seen before, and you're reacting. You see your opponent's move, you're reacting based on just quickly, oh, I remember in this position, this is the theme, this is the pattern. And that's what I was doing. And yeah, I got very good at bullet chess, but bullet chess is a world of difference than over the board. It's slow chess, classical chess. So I think that was part of the problem why I was having these problems in the first maybe 2 weeks or so. And one of them, it was a bad decision making. I actually won my first game local at a local club, and then I went to the Marshall for 4 rounds, game 30, and I won the first 3 rounds there. And then in the 4th round, I made a bad decision. It was an end game. It was very time pressure, and I had 2 rooks and 2 pawns, a H and G pawn. My opponent had 2 pawns, a G and H pawn, a rook, and a knight. So I was up the exchange, clear exchange. And I'm thinking about how can I win this game? And he kind of had like a fortress position set up with his knight. I'm figuring, okay, can I get my king in and sacrifice a rook for the knight, allowing my king to enter, and maybe winning the end game like that? And I kept looking, couldn't find a way. Then I'm thinking, okay, maybe I can get my rook, or try to get my king in the position even further. And is there a way to push my pawn? So H takes G5, and maybe I could win with a pair, pawns off. Couldn't find a win with that. My third solution was to, okay, let my king go all the way down the board, go onto the back rank, try to exchange 1 pair of rooks, and then maybe the rook against the knight with 2 pawns each is winning. And ultimately, that's what I did, and that was the worst decision I could make, because I allowed my opponent to have a knight fork with his very active knight that was kind of making the fortress, and ultimately he won a pawn. And then I had to get my king back to the king side. And doing that, I walked into a knight fork. He won my rook, and the game was over. So again, theoretically, yes, maybe I'm winning that end game, but with little time in a tournament where I'm 3-0, he's 3-0. It's the last round. I don't see a clear win. I looked at a couple of different pathways to try to win. I don't see any of them. I should just keep my rooks on the 7th rank, keep his rook on g8, and accept the fact that the game is going to be a draw. So in my mindset, I didn't want that. I figured, okay, there was no harm in trying to march my king down to the 8th rank to exchange rooks, and then I walked into the knight fork. So that was bad decision making. So again, I was playing well, but a bad decision for a practical decision, and I lost the game. Maybe that again was related to bullet chess, maybe not. So after I started realizing these things, Neil, of what I'm doing wrong, what I'm doing, differently than what I remember of the level I was playing, 8 years ago, when I made the national master title, then I started realizing, okay, I have to change things. And, I played at Steinway. I'm playing in a tournament, which again, nothing, I thank Terrell for everything he's done. I told him in person. But I personally, I can't play in that venue. It's a billiards club in Astoria, Queens. There's loud music. I don't mind the people talking. There's billiards, there's TVs, that I could deal with. But there's loud music like I'm in a disco. Boom, boom, boom. It's I can't play that.
Like
there
that?
You go. Yeah, exactly. And there's young kids playing, and the kids are bobbing their head because they've been playing this for a couple of years. And I'm playing, so I'm playing Terrell, he's over 2,200. I'm playing a kid who's 21, like 80, and I'm just getting like I have a headache and like I'm getting clobbered. And then the game where I gave my opponent way too much respect, and I was afraid in a position that I shouldn't be. He was around, I think, about 1,800. Good player, but the way I played the game was just, that someone my level should not be playing like that. So I thought about all these things, and okay, now I started realizing what I need to do to change. And I've been since I started playing back in this month. I have chess base. I put my games in chess base, and the way I've started getting improvement was what I do. And I think this a lot of people, if anything, this might be one of the most important parts of the podcast, because if you're trying to improve as an adult or even as a scholastic player, I think there's nothing more important than going over your games. There's a lot you can do that, again, that's going to help you nest and build and build and build, right? It's like working out, right? If you're just gaining mass, if you're just gaining weight, well, that's not necessarily what you want, right? You want to have the right muscle tone, the muscles, the right muscle mass equally throughout your body, things like that. So, but going over your games is definitely important. And when I was becoming master, expert 2,100, trying to get to master, I was entering my games in chess base, and I would enter the games completely. And then I would, after I entered all the moves, I would enter what I was, after each, certain critical positions, I would enter text as what I was thinking my opponent might do, some of the planning. And then after that, then I'll turn the engine on and see what the engine says based on what my thinking is. Now, this does take time. Now, I remember some people, some of the professionals were saying, I remember some professional grandmasters saying that, some of them would spend over 6 hours on each of their games going over. That's just, again, that's going to be if you're playing at the world level, and that's way too much for anybody locally. I think even anyone under 2,400, that's too much. I think anywhere from depending on how many moves the game is, anywhere from 30 minutes, I think, to 45 minutes is sufficient. And what happens then, Neil, is that when you've entered the game, because it's a game that you played, there's ownership to it, for the players. You're entering text, right? You're thinking back at now what you were thinking in the game. You put that into text, right? That helps you reinforce it more. And then when you turn on the engine, you see, oh, that's why that this plan didn't work, or this sacrifice didn't work, or those squares that I thought were important weren't important. And then you put some of the analysis in there, and you save the game. So I've been doing that for all my games since I started playing again, and I think that's helped me a lot. Because that is, you could say that is definitely a form of study. Now you may encompass that with, okay, maybe you need to, look at some puzzles, tactical, right? Some calculations. And, sometimes at night before I go to sleep, I'm on my iPhone. I have, some chess books in PDF format on my app. So I just, I'm on my phone and I'll look at the puzzle and I'll see if I can solve it. I don't even look at the solution because most of them I feel like I figure out. And then some are harder than others. So that's kind of my tactical training. Nothing specific. How much to play, right? How much should somebody be playing chess? That's all up to the person. For me, I felt like all these years of inactivity, I have the time right now, at least through the next couple of months. Let me play as much as possible, and that's what I've been doing. I've been playing in all the local clubs pretty much. And in the beginning of April, your last one was still in session, so I couldn't join that. Otherwise, I certainly would have. I had to wait for the next one, which is now the Crankton Memorial that I'm in. So I was playing at all the local clubs. I was going into the Marshall. I was playing the Thursday night, the 4 rated games. I played a Tuesday night Masters action tournament. I played at Steinway at one time where the kids clobbered me at the discotheque. Played in 2 different game 45, Saturday and Sunday at the Marshall. I played in a recent one last weekend at under 2400, which was a game 90, 30-second increment. I played Jay Bonin. I visited Jay Bonin. I played him 7 game 15s, which are rated. It's his first rated games in MSA since he's been, getting his health back to ultimately where I know that he'll be back at the chessboard in the local clubs. It might take a couple of months, but I'm confident he will. It was good to see him. So I've been, playing everything, all different time controls, and just because I feel like, I've always been, if there's a challenge, I want to go all in. And I know that, I've been rusty in the first couple of tournaments, and and then, trying to find, I had some bad, some really tough games. I lost one game at a local club to Jay Kleiman. I was black. I kind of was a French exchange, and most people think that, a lot of people don't play the French or the Caro-Can as black against low-rated opponents because they're afraid. Well, it's easy for white to draw because they play the exchange line. Let me just play, a Sicilian, mix it up. But I played a good way as the black to get some good opposite side castling and some good kingside attack. He had an isolated D pawn, and my pieces were good squares. He had no attack on the queen side. My bishop was on A3, blocking his A pawn from moving. And at one point during the game, I blanked out. I moved my bishop off A3 back, and all of a sudden he made all the moves. I mean, it was straightforward. I mean, it was a position that someone much weaker than Jay Kleiman could play. Because just attack on the queen side. And not taking anything away against Jay. I've known Jay since, at the Marshall from when I was a kid, and a really nice guy, and enjoyed talking to him. And he did everything perfect. I mean, he took full advantage, to his credit. Kudos to him. He did everything perfect to beat me in that game after I made that one bad move. And you got to take advantage of your opponent's mistakes when the opportunity arrives. And he certainly did. There was some rough games in the beginning, and after that game, I'm like, wow, how did I, do this? And again, I'm making it's not like a blitz game. I'm just making like a bad move where it's giving your opponent all the play. You shouldn't make it that easy for them. And I'm like, oh, maybe I should stop playing. This is just not fun. And then, I think I posted this. I think it was on one of the local pages, and then, Jay Bonin said that, just be thankful that you can go and play, and then I thought about that for a while, thinking about the challenges situation that he's in, how much he's always played and how much he loves playing. And I realized that I'm just taking this, too seriously, and, be thankful that I can play and go to the local clubs and, things like that. And that kind of really turned things around for me. I started getting better results after that, and, playing a little better. And then I remember 2 weekends ago, I was at the Marshall when I lost the game to an 1800. I was white, and the game was over by move 20. I resigned. This was the game where I felt like I gave him too much respect. I was too fearful of his plan. And then I played him the next day with black. And the next day with black, I think he probably felt, wait a second, this guy, he's 2100 something, but he just made a basic mistake, like in an opening, so let me just start attacking him. And so he started, it was opposite sides castling. I was black. I was on a king side. He was on a queen side. And he just started rolling his pawns, H and G pawn after me. But it was a variation that I know. I was calm, and I played really well. He made a mistake. He lost the exchange. And then he tried to make a lot of tactics from it. But I had everything kind of calculated, worked out. thinking on his time, not giving him too much respect, and I beat him. So a tale in 2 days. It was a turn. It was like Jekyll and Hyde. It was such a big difference in those 2 days, because it was the same opponent. Where one, I just played like really bad, and the next day I started playing, a lot better. And then the same thing happened where I lost a game that I didn't play so well at the Steinway Club. A young scholastic player, probably 13, 14 years old. He's getting close to the national master level. And then about a week and a half later, I played him at the Tuesday Night Masters. And I played a really nice game, and I won. I was playing for endgame ideas, and it didn't even get to the end game. And I played really well, and I won that game. So, within a couple of weeks, I've played two opponents twice, where I lost the first time, but then shortly after, it was like a revenge game, and I felt good, and that was kind of a turnaround, I think, for me within the last couple of weeks, and doing some other things, being relaxed, trying to arrive early. Entering my games, and I'm not playing bullet chess on chess.com like I was when I was inactive for a bunch of years. And I did play this past Tuesday. They have a title Tuesday, and I never played in that before, which is surprising considering that I do have the National Master title, and they give a title player a free diamond membership, which is like the highest one. And, you can play a lot of strong players. Okay, it's 3-minute blitz within second increment, but, a lot of title players. I mean, you win a game or two, you may be getting paired against Scott Kamsky or Magnus Carlsen or any of the top players in the world. And I never did. So I played into this past Tuesday. It's 11 games, and I didn't do so well. I got like 3.5 out of 11, but I took those games and I entered them into my into chess base of my games I've been recently doing this month since coming back. And it was more kind of like for opening training, where, I have to, I didn't put all the games in there. It is blitz. I mean, it has to come to a certain point. But, and I think that this has come up, on the past of, on some of your podcasts where, if you're just playing bullet games, not bullet games, blitz games, and you're not going over them, like, what's the point? You're not getting anything out of them. But if you play a lot less of them, but go over them, there is some value to that. It is going to help you with some, maybe some opening variations. So, and I'll do that again this Tuesday, and hopefully, going forward. So, so all of these factors, I think, of why I feel like I'm starting to play a little bit better now over the last couple of weeks, and hopefully that'll continue.
All right, cool. I really enjoyed your whole thought process there, like sharing that, over the board. Very, very interesting. No, I like kind of getting into people's head and seeing what's going on, because a lot of times what you're thinking, you realize a lot of people, it's similar. Like you think, what's everyone else doing that I'm not? But I think there's more similarities than we realize. But I could relate to a lot of what you're saying. I mean, on a different level, but still. So let's do 2 more segments. All right. Cause we're at about an hour. So I want to first do the, but you're a great speaker. You're making my job easy, Nick.
Oh, thank you.
So that's great. we like that. That's, we podcasters like having a guest because we can just kind of step to the side.
At the very end, though, I do want to ask you a question, and then you don't have to answer it.
Okay.
You could think about it, and if it's something where you think about maybe, because I know sometimes you have podcasts that you don't have interviews. Sometimes you'll do individual, just yourself on there discussing the topic. And this could be something for the future that you might be able to discuss as a separate individual podcast. Okay. So at the end, I'll ask you that question.
Okay. I'm a little nervous now, but that's okay.
No, you're gonna like it. I'm telling you, you're gonna like it.
Oh, good. Okay.
Nervous, yeah.
All right. It's not going to be like, if you were an animal, which one would you be and why? Nothing like that, right?
No, that's happening. That's happening in high school right now.
Yeah, right. Yeah. All right. So the first thing I want to ask you about is cheating in over the board events, like what to look for. I know you have some thoughts on that.
Yeah. So, with my comeback, again, at one of the tournaments at the Marshall Chess Club, it was the first, I played 2 Thursday night game action tournaments. And the first one, I was 2-0. I won my first 2 games. First game was a little shaky. I played pretty good the second game. And game 3, I'm black, and I'm playing, I've had maybe 16, 17-year-old, I would estimate. close to 2100. Good player, obviously. And it was a critical position. And I made a pawn move, and either he could take en passant or he could move his queen, which the pawn move I made was attacking. So it's a critical position. He looked nervous. He got up and he put his hand in his sweater, his pocket. I guess there was something in his pocket. It looked like a phone. And he went running to the bathroom on his time. And I'm like, what is this? I was upstairs at the Marshall. I'm looking all around at the players. It was, big turnout, 40, 50 people. And I'm looking at everybody. I'm looking at the tournament. I'm like, this is crazy. This is ridiculous. And I went to get the tournament director. I'm like, listen, he just ran off with his hand in his pocket to the bathroom. His clock is running. It's game 25. This isn't like a slow a game. And come on, something's not right here. And he's like, well, you don't know if, he's on his phone. Maybe he has to go to the bathroom. I'm like, yeah, but come on. How do I know he's not doing something? He went running off on his time. And, so the tournament director looked into it and got him, and he came back to the board, and it was a good game and very good tactical, open position, a lot of different possibilities. I went on to eventually win the game. This was a tournament which I lost in round 4 based on that bad decision making, where I should have just, allowed him to keep the fortress. But so I that just showed, and you have to wonder sometimes. And I think that, in a situation like that, where if you see someone like that, and it's a critical position, and you kind of know it's a critical position now I don't know. I know, because I'm familiar with the theme of the opening and of the middle game of this idea, and I know it's a critical position. Now, maybe players that are not as strong as myself or enough experience and knowledge, maybe they wouldn't recognize this. Players that are even stronger than myself, maybe 2400s in certain games, they certainly would know there's some positions that are just critical, maybe in a mainline Sicilian or some theoretical opening. And when, if you see someone, especially in a quick action, quick tournament, go running, away to the bathroom, and they're moving fast, to the bathroom, and their clock is running. That is something to be concerned about, and the Marshall Chess Club, allows players to have their phones on them, because with the technology now at that club, they have screens upstairs and downstairs, and it'll tell you your pairings on the screen, and you could even enter the touch screen. You could enter the results. The technology is great, and they also have options where you can get your pairings on your phone. So it doesn't create a log jam at the office or where they post the wall chart. So nothing wrong with that, but a lot of the players aren't turning off their phones. I always power my phone down. I don't put it on vibrate. I don't put it on silent. I know a lot of the local directors do a great job before the tournament starts explaining, what to do with your phone. And some of these clubs, right, the phones still go off. I always shut mine down. I power it down. It says, swipe to turn it off, and I turn it off. Just because, it eliminates any possible, maybe I didn't turn the volume all the way down, maybe I left the ringer on. I just shut my phone completely down. And any big tournament, okay, like the one I'm going to participate in this weekend, I'm not even going to have my phone on me. I'm just keeping it in my room, in my hotel room. Some players may feel like, well, maybe they don't want to leave the phone in a room, right? How do you know it can't get stolen? There's always a bad apple, right? Most of the hotels, the staff is excellent, right? The cleaning maids and whatnot, but it doesn't mean that you're not going to get one that could. And so I could understand that. There's always, in a big tournament, you could keep your phone in your car if you want to. There's always things like that, but I know for me, I don't really want it. At minimum, it's going to be powered off. I'm not thinking about my phone. I don't want it to worry about the ringer. So I just shut it down completely. But a lot of clubs, they don't. And when you see someone with the hand in the pocket, they're running off to the bathroom. That's definitely a suspicion. If you're playing a slower game and the person is getting up every move, some people are just naturally, they like to get up and walk around, maybe view other games. They're in plain sight. That's different. But if you see someone getting up after every move, and it's your time and you're thinking, and they're not in the playing hall, that's something to be concerned about, and it's not that you want to be paranoid. It's not that you want to, that unfortunately the age that we live in today, that it is possible that if someone's getting up every move, they could, maybe they have the position in the computer. If their phone is on, they don't need to reset. They don't need to recreate the position because it's already in the phone from the last move or two. They just go run out where nobody could see them and look at it and then come back. That could happen. That could be happening. I hope it's not. I don't want, again, it's like this is something I don't want to be thinking about during a classical event at a tournament, because ultimately those things are going to distract you, and then that's going to affect your play. And ultimately, if someone's cheating with a computer, the odds are it's not going to make a difference, right? Because if you're 2300 and you're playing at your best, if you're playing somebody that's looking at all the moves with Stockfish, you're losing. That's it. You could be 2,500. You're losing, right? Just because how strong the engines are. So, I just hope that's not the case. But again, it's something to, for tournament directors and these clubs to think about. If you're seeing, someone where, and it's the onus is also on the players too, where the local clubs, you may start to, if you attend enough events, you get to know the players. And if this is a behavior that's repeating, you may have to say something, say, well, every move they're running out, but they're running out of the playing hall and I don't know where they're going. And it's happening over and over again. I think there's justification in saying something, for that. So that's, some of the cheating, I would say, at the, what to look for, what to avoid, I would say, don't get stressed out about it at the point where you're thinking, where it starts really affecting you and your decision making at the board. Don't let it get to that level. Be on a lookout for it. Keep it in the back of your mind. Make a mental log. Oh, I remember this player, and I remember a couple of weeks ago they were doing this, and just leave it at that. If it gets repetitive, then I think that's something to make a comment on, and maybe in conjunction with this player is getting a few results that are, a few standard deviations of what they should be doing. So that's all I think. I think overall, overwhelming majority of chess players are ethically, competitive participants and don't cheat. But again, we know cheating does exist and there's been cases and instances of it. So it's just something that we have to be on the lookout for. Okay, so one question, and again, you could either answer it or you could think about maybe thinking about it for a future individual podcast, because I know some of your podcasts that you don't have people that you interview, it's generally less time, maybe 40-minute, half hour, 45 minutes or so feel appropriate for yourself. So my question is that you've done a great job with the club. You've gotten the attendance up to 47, now 48 people. The Chess Angle podcast. I think you're getting close to 70 podcasts now.
Yeah, this is number 68. I think there's going to be one before this. Yeah, we're getting there.
Wow. Right. So my question is, with the podcasts, and you've had a whole range of people. Okay, some are on your own, and then some are different level players. Title players, club players, professional players, grandmasters. Right? It's amazing that somebody from a local club, local director, could get grandmasters on the podcast. That's great. So you've covered a wide range of topics over the couple of years doing the podcast. So my question to you that you could think about is, has there been anything that you've taken away from all of these podcasts that you think differently about chess, maybe that's helped you?
That's a great question. And in fact, everyone's going to think we planned this, but I honestly, I had no idea Nick was going to ask me this.
Mm-hmm.
The episode that is going to be before this, which I have notes for, but didn't record it yet,
mm-hmm.
is actually going to be about that. Well, actually, by the time people are hearing this, they will have already heard it. Do you follow?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I record like out of order
mm-hmm.
based on my schedule. If my schedule, if I have a little more time, I'll kind of, like this one, I'll kind of record an episode in the bank to have. The episode, again, people will have heard it by the time this comes out. It's actually going to be sort of a modified study plan when life happens, like when your schedule gets really busy. And that was based on a guest I had. For example, I can say it now to you, Nick, because again, this will have been out already. I came up with this study plan. This is just one example. And I call it Puzzle Rush +1. And what it is, for those times when life happens, you're just really busy, but you don't want your game to deteriorate. Because what do we do? Because I do this. We tend to be like all or none. It's like, well, I got this going on. I got that going on. I'm not going to bore people with my own personal story, but, I'm in a busy phase right now.
Yep.
And, if I can't study the way I want, the amount I want, I'm just not going to do it at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized that's just way too dramatic. So I came up with this study plan called Puzzle Rush +1, where it's like a 20 to 30 minute study plan a day, which is not that much time, but it's something. And where you do 1 5-minute puzzle rush. Okay. And then you go over the ones you got wrong or missed. It's a good warm up. Because when Puzzle Rush first came out, I kind of thought it was like just kind of a gimmicky thing where you do that and then +1, meaning pick one other thing. So do a puzzle rush and then maybe review a tournament game with an engine. Do a puzzle rush or read some pages from a book that you're currently reading, or do puzzle rush and then do some, that type of thing. So you do puzzle rush as your warm up and one other thing. And I got that idea from Anthony Levin, who I had on
I did listen
just recently.
Yes.
Like this study plan I've just been doing, and I kind of did puzzle rush for a while. I dismissed it. I was like, this is like cliche. It's too trendy. And then when he started talking about how he does it all the time, and this is a master saying this and how it helped him, it really put this bug in my ear. It kind of messed with my head. And I'm like, you know what? I should go back to it. And I was struggling with my own time right now. And again, I'm not complaining. This is my own doing. I'm going back for an advanced degree. That's my choice and I'm happy with it. But just the reality is that, with my home responsibilities and work and everything, it's very limited time. And so I came up with this plan, and, people heard the episode because it's probably going to be the previous episode from this, but that was from a guest, and as far as adding a little more spice to my openings, trying some different lines that came from FM Karsten Hansen, because I was talking about my opening repertoire with him and I was mentioning the London, and he's like, it's fine that you play the London, but just, try to mix it up a little bit, try to go for some spicier variations. So I've been trying to do that. I mean, I do like playing as a grinder. That's just my thing. I actually do enjoy it, but so different things like that. I'm trying to think what else, because I have
ways. Often people get caught up with the opening and think, okay, it's the opening, I'm going to play it like this. But even the London, there's different ways that White can play the London.
There's a lot.
Right.
Yeah. Because everything now, it's like the trendy thing now, especially in the D4, D5 is, pop the knight on E5 and, keep the king in the middle, go H4 and, G, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's all the, maybe castle queenside, but you can play the London very positionally and very slowly. You can do like a slow burn and, get some queenside play, get some play on the, on the C file. And even Magnus has done that bit, but that's the thing about Magnus. He can play the London really slow and positionally and grind you down, or he'll play like an early attack with the H pawn. But it seems to be like the narrative with the London now is that it's just attack, but you can play that slower and more positional and just wear your opponent down. I mean, I've won a lot of games that way.
That's what Ding won a game with the London against Nepo. Like that stuff.
Yeah, the London and the French. My London system and my French we're now in a world champion. Although, I mean, am I right about the French that we haven't seen one or in a while? What was the deal with the French in a world championship?
I think one of the games was a French.
No, but I'm saying prior to this one.
Oh, I'm not.
What's the deal? Like the French was never used or was barely, I don't know, because the announcers, I mean, it was almost annoying. Somebody that like, oh my God, he's playing a French. It's like, all right, stop it. Like, I don't know. Like some of the announcers were annoying with that. Like it was, oh my God, he's playing the French. I didn't see why it was a big deal, but not everything has to be a Roy Lopez. But yeah, no, he played the London and a French. And then I think there was a Nimzo, right?
I believe so.
I believe so. I don't have it in front of me right now, but so anyway, going back to your question, yeah, there have been a few other things. Let me just pull up the episodes here. So I'm trying. Yeah. So the Puzzle Rush, that study plan really came from Anthony Levin because I was looking for a way to come up with a condensed plan. But yeah, actually, part of that answer, which I didn't get to, what's good about that study plan that I came up with, it's not something you're going to use long term. It's a stopgap, right? It's just for those periods. But what I like about it is when you do play an over the board game, you don't feel like, you don't feel like, oh, I'm so out, that feeling like when you're playing over the board and you haven't really looked at a board at all that week, like you haven't studied, you haven't played, and now you're playing,
that was me a couple of weeks ago. I know the feeling.
Yeah. Well. So with this study plan, with this Puzzle Rush +1 study plan, at least when I play, I feel, okay, you know what? I'm fresh. I don't feel like rusty. I don't feel insecure about my game.
And that means a lot. Little things like that mean a lot.
Oh yeah. And because it's all psychological, because there are people, they know the theory, they know this, but they just crack under tournament conditions, and that could be.
Mm-hmm. There's people that do tactics before a tournament game, like half hour before a tournament game, they're doing some puzzles.
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. And I guess one other thing I learned, I'll just mention one more thing. Bonin was on here. Jay Bonin, that was episode 56. See, it's so much easier to remember the episode numbers when I pull it up first before recording or during the recording in this case. But what Jay was saying, because I was talking about it, I'm like, Jay, you're like a grinder, right? And he goes, yep, I'm a grinder. And it kind of made me realize, you know what? There's nothing wrong with grinding, because it seems to be another narrative out there is that, positional chess or just sort of a slow burn is like boring, attack, you want to attack. Attacking chess is winning chess. But so Bonin, I mean, look at how accomplished he is. He's a grinder. And then Rob Guevara, our friend, National Master Rob Guevara, who was on here, I think he told me, it might have been off air. I forget if it was on air. He said, you know what, Neil, if you like grinding and you're doing well, then be the best grinder you can be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like there's nothing wrong with that.
Yep, absolutely.
So those are a couple of things I learned. But you know what? You bring up a good point, Nick. That might be a good sort of recap episode down the road, like lessons learned from this podcast.
Yeah, and because you
absolutely,
and
maybe when I get to like 70
levels,
yeah, like when I get to like 75 or 100 episodes,
like an anniversary one. Going back and looking at some of the past podcasts and whatnot, and I think that hopefully hopefully the audience, the audience that listens to you, regularly, maybe they're not listening every single one, but they listen to enough where they know you well enough as the host, and over some of your past interviews, and hopefully if they're adults, they feel like they still can improve at chess, and I think and I know I feel like I could certainly still improve, and if they want to make like a certain rating level or class, I think it's definitely possible. I mean, you've had myself, I became a national master at 37 years old. Rob Guevara was in his 40s. Anthony Levin didn't start playing chess, he said, until he was 18 or 19.
Yeah, and he made 2,200.
Right. So these are things that, players, that maybe they want to make 1,800, maybe they want to make 2,000. I think that if they certainly can, just play, enjoy it, and and don't think so. Sometimes we think as human beings in terms of getting results, we think too in a linear progression where, okay, I'm going to go up steadily like a staircase. That's not always the case. Sometimes it'll go like exponential, but maybe it takes a certain amount, and all of a sudden, like, you recognize something, and that makes a big jump for you. And it's because everyone is different in their, I think, development. So playing more consistently, playing more meaningful, I thought, games that are complete games, I call them, where you're not making a mistake and you're doing a lot of good things. And if you start putting a lot of games together like that in a row, or a couple tournaments in a row, then even if your results aren't exactly there yet, where you're gaining the rating points, but you can notice that you're getting more informed. You notice that your planning is better. You just notice that you're playing better games overall, more interesting games. Then that's a sign that you're doing the right things, and the rating points will come eventually. I wouldn't worry about it.
Absolutely. And what is, I love playing. I really do. It's great. There's nothing like playing over the board. It's like it's a real thrill. But the reason for me, it's you hit the nail on the head. It's consistency thing, because I still perform sometimes pretty well against higher rated, but I'm still losing and drawing too many games to lower rated, and that's what's, at least lately, and it's for the reasons we spoke about. Because all it takes is, like you were saying before, you play someone lower rated, that could be 20 points or more, just on that one game, regardless of, that's just how it is.
Sometimes it's decision making for the tournament. Okay, this past weekend, I played in a 5-round game 90, 30-second increment at the Marshall Chess Club. First game Friday night. There was 2 Saturday, 2 Sunday. I won my first round against a young girl, 1700 or so. Played a nice game. Saturday morning, I won my second game with black against a 1900 something, an 8th grader. He actually started after that loss. He got it together and he actually won a bunch of games and tied myself and 2 other people for first place. So obviously, he's a good player. I played well. Third round, I drew a kid who just turned 9 years old, but he's almost 2100 already. And I made a bad opening mistake, and he took full advantage. He knew how to take advantage. I had to give up the exchange, so I got a pawn. I didn't want to resign, but I figured, okay, as long as I'm not hanging anything else and no immediate threats, I could play on, which I did. I felt maybe he was exchanging pieces too fast, which he did, but he was still technically winning. But then we got a position where I thought maybe, just maybe, I could make a fortress being down in the exchange because I have a bishop and pawn, and sure enough, that's what happened, and I drew that game. I saved the game. I had 2.5 out of 3. The next morning, I was black, played a 2000 something. I didn't like the position that I got, but I felt like it wasn't necessarily easy for him to take advantage. I offered a draw, and he thought about it, and he accepted it. We went over the game. We discussed a lot of things. It was really pleasant, and discussed that he was 64 years old. We talked about chess in 72, chess about now, the differences. We talked about sports, and he was, really, really nice gentleman. And, sure enough, the computer found small improvements for both of us, as naturally would be the case. But I felt like, offering the early draw would help me because I would have 3 out of 4 going into the last round. I would be well rested. I'd get the white pieces in the last round. And sure enough, what do you know? Last round, I'm playing my game when, complete my game was the last game playing, a 5-hour game. And I had the energy to win the game in the end game. He probably could have saved the game. It was tricky. He didn't have much time. I played, again, I played a really good game. I won and I tied for first. So, again, I'm 21 at the time. I put a tournament. My rating was like 2160 in the 4th round. He was 2020. Yes, I'm losing rating points, but sometimes it's a decision for the tournament that you have to make the best decision.
Yeah.
I know Rob Guevara probably would never offer to draw. He's going to play on, but I'm thinking of tournament positions because I want to be well rested. I'm thinking about the last round, and sure enough, it worked to my favor. So. Again, and I assessed the position where, I definitely knew I felt like I was a little bit worse. But, sometimes, those are the things that, you can do to save games, because I very well could have lost that game maybe if I would have, if I didn't, maybe, who knows what could have happened in any game. So, these are just some decisions. And, again, I wasn't looking at it from a ratings perspective. So, I think I went four out of 5 for the tournament, tied for first, and I think for that tournament I gained like 7 rating points. That's just the way the system is now with the ratings, so people shouldn't worry about it. Just keep trying to perform better in terms of like your result, in terms of the quality of your games. The quality of the games will speak for itself, and then don't worry about the ratings.
I agree. All right, and I think we're going to end it on that. All right, Nick, this was a lot of fun as always.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. I enjoyed it as the first time.
Yeah. So good luck with the tournament this weekend. I don't want to keep you too late, and I'm going to enjoy the quiet here while I can.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, it doesn't happen often, but it's nice once in a while. When you have the house to yourself, it is nice once in a while. But had a lot of fun. So for those of you at home, have a great day. We really appreciate you listening, and I hope you win your next game. Have a great day, everybody. So Nick, what's probably going to happen, this will be posted this, let me see, the 30th, May 7th. May 7th. Yeah.
You got it. Yeah, good weekend. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I'll see you at the club next week. All right, Nick. Have a good night.